Walk into any supermarket and you'll see thousands of brands: cereals, snacks, soft drinks, meat, packaged meals, baby formula, pet food. It looks like endless choice, a marketplace filled with competition. But the truth is more unsettling. The vast majority of the products sitting on those shelves are controlled by just five mega corporations. They decide what you eat, how much you pay, what farmers grow, and even which ingredients are acceptable. This didn't happen overnight. It took a century of mergers, acquisitions, aggressive lobbying, and quiet consolidation. And because food is not like electronics or clothing, it's not optional. Control over food means control over people. Every empire in history understood that. Today's food empires simply use corporate boardrooms instead of armies. But the real story isn't just about monopoly power. It's about how the global diet itself was reshaped. How traditional, organic, nutrient-rich foods were replaced with ultra-processed, shelf-stable, cheap commodities engineered for maximum profit. The decline in food quality wasn't an accident. It was the predictable outcome of consolidation. Fewer companies mean fewer incentives to diversify, innovate, or prioritize health. Behind the smiling logos and colorful packaging lies a sophisticated global system where a handful of companies control seeds, fertilizers, farming technology, production factories, transportation networks, marketing budgets, and finally, the supermarket shelves. This documentary will show you how the modern food system became centralized, who built it, why they built it, and what it means for the future. Because once you see how your food is made and who decides it, you'll never look at a supermarket the same way again. 100 years ago, the food industry was one of the most decentralized sectors in the world. Every town had local farmers, local bakers, local butchers, local millers. Food was short distance, seasonal, and fresh. But after World War II, everything changed. Governments wanted stable, cheap food supplies for booming populations. Scientists wanted to industrialize agriculture. Corporations wanted scale. The result was the birth of the Green Revolution: high-yield crops, synthetic fertilizers, chemical pesticides, mechanized farming, and massive monocultures. At first, it looked like a miracle. Yields skyrocketed. Food prices dropped. Famines declined. But quietly, the foundation was being laid for corporate consolidation. Farmers became dependent on commercial seeds and synthetic inputs. Local food processors went bankrupt as national brands expanded. Supermarkets replaced local shops. Everything became centralized, and once a system becomes centralized, it becomes easy to control. By the 1980s, aggressive mergers and deregulation created food giants capable of swallowing entire industries. Companies that once specialized in one category, cereal, baby food, meatpacking, expanded into dozens. They didn't compete, they absorbed competitors. They didn't innovate, they standardized. Today, just 5 corporations dominate: Nestlé, processed food, beverages, baby formula, pet food; PepsiCo, snacks, beverages, cereals; Coca-Cola Company, beverages, bottled water; Kraft, Heinz, and Mondelez, processed meals, sauces, snacks; Cargill and Archer Daniels Midland, ADM, farming, grain trading, livestock feed, ingredients. Together, they influence what the world grows, eats, craves, and buys. The illusion of choice was the final step.
Hundreds of brands, same parent company. Control, disguised as variety.
Nestlé is the largest food company in the world. With more than 2,000 brands, it touches nearly every category: water, coffee, chocolate, baby formula, frozen meals, medical foods, dairy products, pet food. The list never ends. But Nestlé's power comes not just from the products you know, but from the supply chains you don't see. Its influence began in the 1970s, when Nestlé aggressively marketed formula to mothers in developing countries, sparking global controversy. But the backlash didn't slow the company. Instead, it expanded into bottled water, buying access to natural springs worldwide, and selling water back to the public, a fundamental resource turned into a commodity. Nestlé's acquisitions allowed it to control entire categories. It dominates coffee through Nescafé and Nespresso. It owns major chocolate brands like Kit Kat and Smarties. It controls pet food through Purina. It dominates medical nutrition through specialized divisions. The danger isn't that Nestlé exists, it's that it has become indispensable. When one company controls so many essential categories, it can influence prices, supply chains, and even agricultural practices globally. Farmers must meet Nestlé standards. Retailers must negotiate on Nestlé terms. Consumers unknowingly feed their homes with Nestlé products daily. This is not a food company. This is a food empire.
PepsiCo is often seen as Coca-Cola's rival. But PepsiCo is far larger when it comes to food. It owns Frito-Lay, Quaker, Doritos, Cheetos, Mountain Dew, Pepsi, Tropicana, Gatorade, and dozens more. If Nestlé controls meals, PepsiCo controls cravings. The company perfected the science of bliss point engineering, optimizing sugar, salt, and fat ratios to make foods addictive. These hyper-processed products dominate supermarkets, gas stations, school cafeterias, and vending machines. PepsiCo's power comes from controlling both snacks and beverages, creating a distribution empire unmatched by competitors. Their trucks, warehouses, and sales networks reach nearly every retail outlet in developed and developing economies. In many countries, PepsiCo is not just a brand, it is the food ecosystem. Yet this dominance comes with consequences. High fructose corn syrup dependence, obesity epidemics, degraded soil from industrial corn farming, decline of traditional diets. PepsiCo's influence reshaped global taste preferences. Entire generations were trained to crave engineered flavors instead of natural foods. That is power, not measured in dollars, but in habits.
Coca-Cola controls over 500 beverage brands, far beyond the soda that made it famous. But its real power comes from controlling the cold chain. Refrigerators, vending machines, restaurant fountains, convenience store coolers. Coca-Cola pays retailers to stock its products at eye level, to fill entire fridges, to promote its brands over all others. It even supplies the equipment. This control over placement creates the illusion of demand. People buy what they see most, and Coca-Cola makes sure you see Coke everywhere. But there is another layer. Coca-Cola is one of the world's largest buyers of sugar and corn syrup. This gives it influence over agriculture itself, what farmers grow, how land is used, and how global supply chains function. The company is not just selling beverages, it is shaping food economics.
Kraft, Heinz, and Mondelez were once one company. After splitting, they now dominate two different worlds. Kraft Heinz controls packaged meals, sauces, condiments, and frozen food. Mondelez dominates snacks, candies, and biscuits. Oreos, Cadbury, Toblerone. Their business model is simple. Buy competitors, standardize recipes, maximize shelf life, scale globally. To make foods last longer and travel farther, companies reformulated products with preservatives, stabilizers, emulsifiers, artificial flavors, seed oils, and ultra-processed ingredients. This is how food became food product. The danger isn't just unhealthy ingredients, it's that these products replaced traditional diets in entire countries. Fresh foods take time and skill to prepare. Processed foods take seconds. Convenience became the weapon. Marketing became the shield. And just like that, home cooking declined, metabolic diseases rose, and entire food cultures were replaced by global brands.
Most people have never heard of Cargill or Archer Daniels Midland, ADM, yet they control the foundation of the global food system. They do not make products for store shelves. They control seeds, grain elevators, livestock feed, fertilizers, shipping fleets, ports, commodity trading, processing plants, wholesale distribution. Together, Cargill and ADM act as the food middlemen for the entire planet. When a farmer harvests grain, Cargill buys it. When a manufacturer needs soy protein, ADM supplies it. When a country faces a wheat shortage, these companies set the global price. When a ship carries corn across the ocean, odds are high it belongs to Cargill. They influence what farmers grow because they buy in bulk and sell worldwide. This encourages monocropping, huge fields of corn, soy, and wheat, instead of diverse, nutrient-rich farms. This consolidation is why modern diets revolve around the same ingredients: corn syrup, soy oil, wheat flour. The base of the food pyramid is not cultural, it is corporate. When 5 corporations control most of the food supply, several dangers emerge. 1. Fragile supply chains. If one corporation faces contamination, cyber attack, shipping delays, entire regions feel the shock. 2. Decline in food quality. Shelf stability becomes more important than nutrition. Profit becomes more important than health. Ultra-processed foods now make up over 50% of calories consumed in many countries. 3. Loss of food independence. Countries become dependent on multinational corporations instead of local agriculture. This reduces food sovereignty, the ability to feed your population without foreign control. 4. Farmer power declines. Farmers become reliant on corporate seeds, fertilizers, and buyers. Their margins shrink while corporate profits grow. 5. Monoculture farming weakens soil. Corn, soy, and wheat dominate global agriculture, depleting topsoil and reducing biodiversity. 6. Manipulation of taste and health. Companies engineer foods to be addictive. Sugar, salt, and fat dependency becomes a public health crisis. 7. Corporate lobbying blocks reform. Food giants spend billions lobbying against regulations, sugar taxes, and labeling laws. They protect profits over public health. We traded local control for global convenience, and the cost is just beginning to show. Corporations didn't take control by force. We handed it to them for convenience. Busy lifestyles made cooking rare. Urbanization disconnected people from farms. Marketing convinced us that packaged was better. Supermarkets replaced farmers' markets. And once brands became habit, monopolies formed naturally. It was not a conspiracy. It was a market logic. People buy what is easy. Corporations sell what is profitable. The result is a system too big to fail, too complex to regulate, and too consolidated to be replaced quickly. The corporate food system will not collapse tomorrow, but it will face pressure. Younger generations care about organic food, regenerative agriculture, local sourcing, transparent supply chains, less processed diets. Governments are slowly reacting. Sugar taxes, clearer labeling, restrictions on processed foods, support for local farming. Technology may decentralize food again. Vertical farming, lab-grown foods, precision fermentation, AI-optimized agriculture, direct farmer-to-consumer platforms. But the real change comes from awareness. When people understand who controls the food system and how consolidation affects health, culture, and sovereignty, they make different choices. The world doesn't need to overthrow the food giants. It needs competition, diversity, and transparency. The story of food is the story of civilization. And today, the future of food is being decided in boardrooms, not farms. But the system is not irreversible. A more resilient, local, nutritious, and diverse food system is possible if societies choose it.